Hello class, today we're going to be looking at the periodic table and kind of getting some basics down about the periodic table. You should have a copy of the periodic table that you can write on, and I'll let you know which things that you can write on there. So questions for today: identify groups and periods on the periodic table. What information does the group number give you? Draw a carbon atom and draw a chlorine atom. Okay, so we're going to look at some basics of the periodic table, and as you can see here, this is kind of the same periodic table you have, except that you have some different information on yours. If you don't have one yet, one of these periodic tables, let me know. You can use it on tests and quizzes, so we want to make sure that you have it. We also want to make sure that you have the correct stuff written down on the periodic table that you can have for tests and quizzes. So eventually we are going to color code your periodic table, and if you wanted to use this to help you, you can do that. There's one in your book that you can use as well. The key thing is that when we color code it, we actually do label or make a table or chart of what each color represents so that you have that information as well. So a couple things we'll be looking at today are the group number and the period number. And we'll come back to the slide to show that here in just a few minutes. Dmitri Mendeleev is the father of the periodic table. So if you see his name, it just means that he kind of created this periodic table. He did so on purpose. He did this as a project kind of for his students. He was a professor and he wanted his students to be able to learn the elements that were known at the time. So a couple of things that you can label in your periodic table are the atomic number and the atomic symbol, and the mass or mass number. If you would like, you can do this in a square on your periodic table. You can draw your own square on the periodic table to give you an idea of what these things are. Your periodic table has the number and the mass switched. So I believe that the atomic number is actually underneath the symbol and the atomic mass is actually on the top of the box. But the key things to know here is that the atomic number is the number of protons and the atomic symbol is just a symbol to show or represent that particular atom, and then the atomic mass is protons plus neutrons. That portion you should not have written on your periodic table. You can write that into your notes. So again, atomic number, number of protons. Key part about the atomic number is it is the identity of the element. So anytime you look up the atomic number 6, that means it's always carbon. No matter what, it is always carbon. And anytime that you look up atom number 18 or element number 18, that's always argon. So the number of protons are important. If the number of protons changes, it is a new element. It is no longer the same element. It is the identity of that element. Mass number is protons plus neutrons. And these are in the nucleus. The electrons are too tiny to count in the mass. They're just too small. They don't have enough mass. This is a decimal number. So if you're not sure which one is the mass number and which one's the atomic number, you can know by the decimal. So the decimal number is the mass number, and the reason it's the reason it's a decimal is because it's an average. It's an average of all the different isotopes or all the different varieties of number of neutrons that are available in that particular type of element. We'll get to the term isotope here in just a little bit. As long as you know it's an average of all the masses. A way you could think of this is if we were to weigh 10 different pennies, they should all come out to about the same mass, but they're probably going to be just tenths of a difference off from each other. And so we would average all of those masses of those pennies and come up with the actual mass. And it would be an average, it would be a decimal number, and it wouldn't be the actual mass of one particular penny, but it's the average of all 10 pennies that you've put together. So a couple things with periodic table organization. Groups are vertical columns, so they're the columns that go up and down. There's 1 through 18. I'll label these in just a moment for you on another on the picture of our periodic table, and you can label them on your periodic table as well. The key part about groups is they have the same number of valence electrons. That word valence is coming up again. Those are outer electrons, the ones in the outermost energy level. And the key thing about valence electrons, which we talked about on a past set of notes, is that they have the same types of chemical properties. So if you have the same number of outer electrons, your chemical properties are very similar. And then periods are horizontal rows, so those go across, and there's 7 of those, numbers 1 through 7. And the period number will tell you how many energy levels you're going to use. So that's kind of important as well. If you're drawing them, it gives you an idea of how many energy levels you need. Now we're going to go back to show how you would label these. I'll go back to our periodic table. And the group numbers will be in red here. They go 1 through 18. Okay, and we'll talk about those more in the next few chapters. And then our period numbers are here. I'll just underline them in blue so that you can see where they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now down here, these would be in periods 6 and 7 as well. They actually fit right up here, the 2 rows, but they wouldn't fit very nicely on a piece of paper. They pull those out. They have a few different characteristics to them. They pull those out and put them at the bottom. Okay, so make sure you have those labeled in your periodic table.